Hi, this is Mike Woods, Director of the Special Friends Ministry at First Baptist Orlando. Welcome to another on-demand training module. In this module, we're going to talk about the process of relational development that we use in our classrooms with our children with special needs within our Special Friends Ministry. And in our ministry, we talk about something called C-Cubed. That's the process of developing relationships with our learners. And C-Cubed is just basically stands for comfort, confirm, and challenge. The development of relationships is important in our Special Friends Children's Ministry, and it's something that we strive for every single Sunday when our kids come to spend time with us. And there's a sequential process that we use in order to do this. You know, ultimately we want to get to a point where we can teach them about the love of Christ, challenge them to learn about His love for them and their faith. But the process that we use in order to get to that point is starting by developing relationships first. And we do that in the order of the verbs that you see, by comfort, confirm, and then challenge. And in a previous training video, we talked about the process of developing comfort. And in a later video, we'll talk about how to challenge kids with learning about the love of Jesus Christ. But in this particular training presentation, we want to work on confirming and what that is and how to do it. Just to review comfort very quickly, comfort was that first process that we engage in developing a relationship with the child, and that's the step that we use to help them to feel safe and comfortable with us, to not feel so anxious about our physical closeness. And in that process, we engaged the child and at times had to pull back and focus on the activity that we were involved in, and it was that constant kind of dance back and forth. If you haven't watched that video yet, it sets the foundation prior to this one, so I'd encourage you to go back and see that before watching the end of this training presentation. Once you've established comfort, the second step in developing relationships is to confirm. And what do we mean by that? Well, one of our core values at First Baptist Orlando is that we believe that every child has infinite worth. And it's not what they can do or can't do that determines their value and worth as human beings. Their value and worth stems from the fact that God created them in His image and that He loves each one of them. And so that process of confirming is simply the step that we're going to help a child to understand that they're loved, that they're accepted, and that they're valued just as they are. Not because of anything that they can't do, not because of things that they can do, but because who they are as a child of God. So how do we do this process of confirming, of helping a child understand that they're loved, and that they're accepted, and that they're valued just as they are? Well, fortunately for us in the Gospels, there's over 26 references or passages where Jesus interacts with people with disabilities. And so the best way that we can learn how to do confirming is by taking a look at some of the consistent things that Jesus did when He was with people with disabilities. There are 4 ingredients in that process of developing a relationship with somebody, specifically in confirming someone to let them know that they're loved and valued and accepted. There's 4 ingredients that I see that Jesus models for us in the Gospels in His interactions with people with disabilities. And here are the 4 ingredients that I think we should have as we're confirming our children with special needs. The first one is our presence. The second ingredient is our hands or our touch. The third ingredient is our words. And the fourth ingredient is our eyes. The first ingredient of confirming that I mentioned was presence. I read once where somebody said that 80% of success is just simply showing up. Well, that's what presence is. Your presence, your availability, your physical presence in and around those kids with special needs says something to them. It says to them that you are a person who is interested in them, that you want to be there, that you choose to be there. And so your presence is the most important ingredient that you have to start teaching that feeling of confirming a child. You see, without presence, there is no relationship. And the presence is only real presence when the child with special needs is aware of your presence. And presence is more than just your physical presence. It's also your mental presence. Your physical presence should be inviting and express warmth, love, safety, joy, empathy, and most of all, authenticity. And this is only possible when you first focus on your mental presence. You have to be fully open and focused on how the child with special needs feels. You have to let go of all your thoughts and your judgments and your expectations about his or her behavior from the past or now or the future. And you may need some alertness on how he may react out of anxiety during your initial contact to ensure that the interaction will be safe for both of you. And we talked about that in the presentation on comfort. But for the rest, you want to focus on the feelings and the needs of the child at this moment. And it's by focusing on the needs of the child that will help you to deal with your own emotions and feelings. Negative feelings such as irritation or anxiety or anger or whatever it might be vanish and are transformed into feelings of love and care for that person when you totally focus on them in the moment. And for some of you, it may be important to evoke the proper mental presence intentionally before you initiate physical contact or have a physical presence with a child with special needs. And that can often be done by just standing still for a moment before making physical contact with him or her and just simply praying or meditating on a verse of Scripture and thinking and feeling about what it is that you're going to give him or her in the shape or form of your presence. The second ingredient that we see in confirming is our hands or our touch. I suspect that Jesus touched people very gently when he interacted with them. And touching a child with special needs in the process of developing relationships for this reason then is very important. Touching is a very direct way to make a child feel the warmth and the love and the safety that we're trying to communicate, because touch does communicate. In many Western countries and cultures, touching a child with special needs warmly isn't customary. And sometimes it's even forbidden in professional care relations out of a fear that touches might be misinterpreted as sexual intentions. On the other hand, a child with special needs may have a lot of experiences of being touched in functional ways when being helped to wash or dress. Sometimes they even experience the sense of being touched in harsh ways when they are in someone's way or when caregivers need to control their behaviors. They can be harsh in the way that they touch kids. And so this may result in a fear of being touched by the children that you have in the classroom. So it's no wonder that in the beginning of the process of developing relationships with kids with special needs that they might be afraid of our touches. And let me say something, you don't respect this fear or anxiety by deciding to not touch the child or to never touch the child, but instead, just like Jesus, of finding ways to gently teach the child that our touch is different, that it expresses unconditional love and safety. A third important ingredient that I think that we see Jesus model in the Scriptures in this process of confirming is our words. Words are a very strong ingredient in developing relationships with people, and as adults we understand that. And certainly we see abundance of Scripture verses that tie into the words that we speak, that we should speak the truth in love, that our words should be used to build up and to edify people. And that's what we're talking about in the use of our words, using words with our kids that are very constructive, that are very affirming, that are very positive. But also remember this, sometimes it's not just the words that matters, it's the tone of voice that we use. It's our tone of voice, which needs to be consistent with our mental presence that matters most. You know, we've all learned in our life to say nice things to a person, even when in that moment we don't like the person or we feel irritated by him or her. And at that moment, we end up sending a double message. The verbal message, in the sense of the words that we use, is that it's good, but the nonverbal message through our tone of voice says something different, that it's not good. And so we end up sending a double message that's not only confusing for the child with special needs, but also may confirm to him or her that we're not trustworthy. And so our words are very important, and with that, I would also say that your tone of voice is also very important too. The fourth ingredient that I think is important in confirming is our eyes. And you see some verses in Scripture where Jesus looked at people with compassion. And you can only imagine what his eyes must have looked like. That love and that compassion that rose out of his heart was certainly manifested in the way that he looked at people. And that's what we mean by our eyes being an important ingredient in this process of confirming. You know, just like physical touch, it's also important to teach a child with special needs that it's good to have warm eye contact. Sometimes, similar to being touched, many children with special needs are afraid of warm eye contact. They may look straight into your eyes to check to see if they can trust you, but when you make the initiative for warm eye contact, sometimes they turn their face and avoid your eyes. Sometimes this may be a result of some negative memories with domineering type of eye contact. You know, we usually only make intense domineering eye contact when we are in that situation where we want somebody else to listen to us and to obey us. And we can be very domineering in the way that we look at people. So sometimes, especially children with special needs who can't handle their stress and may act out with challenging behavior, they have had a lot of experience with domineering or suppressing eye contact, and maybe not much memories of warm eye contact at all. And so this results in a fear or anxiousness of this type of warm eye contact. For some kids on the autism spectrum, by the nature of their vulnerability, accepting and answering eye contact can be challenging. So we have to teach our children that our eye contact means that we really, really want to meet with him or her without any judgment, out of a heart that is filled with love and acceptance and with the intention of helping them and being their friend unconditionally. So the four ingredients of confirming that we see Jesus model in the Gospels, and the ones that we want to implement with our kids, is our presence, our hands, our words, and our eyes. These are the four ingredients that we can use that, after developing comfort, will help a child in this process of confirming to know that they are loved, that they're accepted, and that they're valued.